Capabilities of birds of flight that rival our best computers. Tiktaalik and time travel and fish to land animal evolution is busted again. This is Genesis Week. Welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy. Excellence in pirate broadcasting. We believe God gave you an intelligently designed brain for a reason. Congratulations to last week's winners of the Genesis and Aliens DVD. Vincent in Utah, Alan and his Holmes Bible Study Group in Dunedin, hope I said that right, New Zealand, Oren Otter again in Colorado. See, this is what happens when you're a faithful viewer. And because Oren got in on the top 3 again, I threw in an extra DVD to the 4th person sending in the right answer, the Snow family in Indiana. Thanks to all who played. Aired on the Miracle Channel in Canada, the Walk Television in the US, satellites all around the globe, and of course, the Christianima Network on YouTube. We continue to bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear, and giving our glory to our Creator while we do it. Remember, get lost in cyberspace? You can find us at Wazooloo.com, that's me, or GenesisWeek.com, that's the show, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're there, so you can get extras like Crevo rants and full interviews with our guests. I'm your host, Ian Juby. You've all seen birds in migration, in particular the iconic and venerable Canadian goose. Now, for my American friends, I apologize for my fellow Canadians as they travel to your southern states in migration for the winter, delivering presents from the sky upon you. I disagree with the opinions expressed upon you by my migrating avian friends. Nevertheless, the Canada goose and many other birds tend to fly in a V formation. Now, presumably this is to conserve energy, though previously evolutionary scholars have thought that birds were simply too bird-brained to be able to take advantage of the air disturbances caused by the bird in front of them. Now, as it turns out, yes, it's true, even the Canada goose is as lazy as it possibly can be. A fantastic study came out in Nature describing the flights of birds in the typical V formation. Portugal et al. Worked with the Zoo Vienna in Austria, a zoo which is raising young of near extinct ibis. The zoo would hatch these birds and give them human foster parents. They then would put the bird's foster parent into a microlight, and the foster parent would call out to the birds to get them to fly. Now, they would carry out some practice flights like this before actually taking the birds on a migratory flight to Spain. Portugal et al. Took 14 of these juvenile ibises and mounted small, super lightweight GPS receiver, a data logger, as well as a bunch of accelerometers on the birds. During the training flights of the birds, the flight paths, position of each bird, and the flapping motions were all recorded. Now, once the birds came back to the zoo, the data was downloaded and the discoveries commenced. Now, when an aircraft flies through the air, it effectively pushes down on the air. The air sweeps around the tip of the wings in vortices. So this is the reason that many modern aircraft have now prominent winglets where it looks like the tip of the wing is bent upwards, and sometimes a winglet below the wing. This is to keep the air from going around the wingtip and filling in the vacuum on the top of the wing, thus reducing lift. By simply adding a small winglet, the engineers greatly reduce the loss of lift at the wingtips. However, the wingtips also produce powerful vortices. When a large commercial aircraft lifts some 140,000 to almost 1,000,000 pounds into the air, these vortices are powerful spinning air masses that can flip smaller planes if they happen to stray into them. And the vortices can last quite a while. This is one of the reasons why aircraft departing airports space themselves out by 2 minutes between takeoffs. This allows the wake turbulence, which is like 2 tornadoes, to dissipate. Now, obviously, birds do not produce such large vortices, but on the grand scale of bird to bird, these wingtip vortices most certainly do affect the birds in behind the first. As the bird is flying, it produces these twin vortices, which are like miniature tornadoes, one off of each wingtip. But the bird is also flapping its wings at the same time. So if you can picture it, the vortices move up and down in a wave, following the flapping of the wings. Now, what Portugal et al. Discovered was that there's more to a bird brain than originally thought. The birds keep track of where these invisible vortices are in the air and flap and fly to maximize the use of these vortices in helping them fly. Now, if the bird flies directly behind another, then its wingtips will be caught in the downdraft of the wingtips vortices, and thus the bird actually loses lift and has to work harder to fly. If the bird is slightly higher or slightly lower, then the vortices are going sideways directly and are of no benefit to the trailing bird. However, if the bird flies behind and to the right or left in just the right spot, then the bird's wingtip will catch the updraft of the wingtip vortice, and thus giving the bird's wing extra lift and reducing its energy consumption. Now here's the catch and the surprise finding of the study. If you'll recall, the wingtip vortices move up and down in a wave because of the flapping of the bird's wing. It was discovered that the trailing bird could keep track of where this vortice was in space and flap its wings in synchronization with the wave of the vortice. Now, let's analyze this for a minute. It took very powerful computers to model the wingtip vortices in space. GPS satellites all around the globe and a very complex microcomputer on each bird to map and log all movements. It took several humans and their intelligently designed brains using all of this equipment, complex equipment, just to figure out what the birds were doing. In the meantime, this bird brain, which is only slightly larger than a ping pong ball, processes the vision of the bird, its heartbeat, oxygen levels, breathing, excreting waste, the flapping motion which is controlling the bird in 3D space, its other body movements like moving its head around, all while also keeping track of the invisible vortices in the air around it and flapping in time with those vortices in order to maximize lift and minimize energy expenditure. All of those GPS satellites, the computers involved, the energy consumption of the brains of the researchers, the battery packs powering each of the onboard computers on the birds. It all adds up to tens of thousands of watts of power, comparing it to the incredibly energy efficient bird brain. But of course, as we all know, though that brain looks designed, we must continually remind ourselves that it evolved one small step at a time. On that note of never questioning evolution, February 12th fast approaches, the birthday of Darwin. As such, the Question Evolution Project has, of course, declared February 12th the annual Question Evolution Day, and we too want to encourage you to step out and ask some questions of evolution. After all, I think you would all agree. That is good science to question everything, is it not? So why then should evolution be exempt from questioning? What's that? Oh, because evolution is a proven fact and questioning it is like questioning gravity? No, gravity is observable, repeatable, and predictable. Evolution is none of these things, and is therefore not scientific and most certainly should be questioned. What evolution has been observed? In what way is it repeatable? What has evolution successfully predicted? You see, if you haven't asked these questions, then you should, because I think you'll be surprised by the answers. So head on over to the Question Evolution Day webpage and plan out your day of celebration. Speaking of failed evolutionary predictions, Tiktaalik has made headlines again. Now, if you'll recall, conventional evolutionary theory has fish growing legs and walking up onto the land to become tetrapods, four-footed land creatures. Now, we are shown the impressive line of fossils which allegedly demonstrate this gradual progression through time. However, for the longest time, there was a gap in the middle of the sequence. The evolutionary theorists placed this gap at around the 375 million year mark. So a team of researchers headed to Ellesmere Island in the Canadian High Arctic to look at rocks they considered 375 million years old and found a genuine missing link, Tiktaalik, which in their minds fit the bill, and that horrible empty spot on the chart, of an intermediate animal between fish and tetrapods. Tiktaalik was heralded as not only proof of evolution, given its own website and a book entitled Your Inner Fish, it was heralded as evolution making and fulfilling a scientific prediction, one of the most powerful proofs for a scientific theory. Of course, this was all for naught when a couple of years later fossil footprints from fully formed tetrapod feet showed up in Poland, found in rocks dated by evolutionists as 395 million years old. Whoops. This also doesn't acknowledge the fossil footprints found in Grand Canyon by geologist John Mackay and published some 20 years ago, footprints in rocks dated by evolutionists as 115 million years before Tiktaalik. These were clear tetrapod footprints, complete with toes. But not letting facts interfere with a good theory, Shubin and team published more facts on the Tiktaalik fossil after finding its hips and a couple of other small chunks of leg bones. As if the Polish footprints never existed, all the press, and Neil Shubin himself, went hog wild with the glory of Tiktaalik, once again declaring it to be the ancestor of the tetrapods. Tiktaalik fossils reveal how fish evolved into four-legged animals. Tiktaalik Roseae is the first fish which has transitioned to land as per the research data of Professor Neil Shubin of the University of Chicago. This creature is the most compelling example of the fish transition to tetrapod till date. Fin to limb. Science notes, ancient fishes' fins evolved into limbs in shallow water. Now hold on a minute. If Tiktaalik was supposed to be the first fish to walk up onto land and was in the process of developing legs and feet, then what are these fossil footprints from a land-walking tetrapod doing in rocks in Poland that the evolutionists themselves has dated as being older than Tiktaalik by 20 million years? What about the fossil tetrapod footprints of Grand Canyon, dated by the evolutionists as 115 million years before Tiktaalik? You cannot be your grandfather's father. There can only be one explanation. Tiktaalik did not just figure out how to grow legs over the next 20 million years, Tiktaalik also figured out time travel. Thus, after growing fully formed legs, feet with toes, etc., he then went back in time and roamed around Poland for a while, leaving footprints which became fossils. He then went even further back in time, another 115 million years, and roamed the beaches of Arizona, leaving footprints which now became fossil footprints in Grand Canyon. And that's how you get fossil footprints 135 million years before feet evolved. The other alternative being that tetrapods were created as tetrapods right from the beginning. Tiktaalik is just another weird created creature, and when you take into account the ridiculous variety of fish we have today, Tiktaalik isn't even that unusual. We have fish today that walk on land, like the mud skipper. No one is pointing to them as some evolutionary intermediate. Why not? David Coppage put it so well in Creation Evolution headlines that I'm just going to quote him here. The diversity of fish is so broad, one could take any number of unusual forms and make evolutionary icons out of them. Learn a few jargon words and measurement techniques, and you might become rich and famous too. Maybe you could write a book, Your Inner Toad, to explain why people croak, or Your Inner Sponge to explain why people expect entitlements. If Shubin and his toadies in the press had not sworn an oath to protect Charles Darwin, this storytelling would be seen for what it is, a modern-day form of divination by shamans seeking fame and respect from the peasants. Interestingly, not a week after Shubin's paper came out, a second paper came out in PLOS Biology by Woltering et al. They took a look at Hox genes between fish and mice. Hox genes are genes which control the sequence of using other genes to build components of a body in the correct place and sequence. Now in this case, they looked at Hox A and Hox D genes to see if there was any similarity between the two. After all, ultimately, mice were supposed to have evolved from the fishes. So what did they find? Well, the same thing we find every day, Pinky. It didn't work. The genes that make the limbs of the mouse and the fins of the fish can be similar, but the genes controlling those genes are the opposite. The Hox genes that control the making of the fins of the fish control the making of the upper legs on the mouse, instead of making the digits on the mouse feet like I expected. And so we see what we have seen so many other cases of alleged homology, similarities between organisms such as the arms. Now this is used as an argument for evolution when in fact these similarities can be just as easily explained by a common designer, God, not a common ancestor. And as we see here again, when one digs deeper, we find out that the limbs themselves may be homologous between organisms, but the genes that make the limbs are not. Homology is best explained by a common designer, not a common ancestor in evolution. This is another blow to the alleged fish-to-land animal evolution. A tablet from Mesopotamia is causing quite a stir as it contains reference to what appears to be Noah's Ark and specific instructions on how to build it. Estimated to be 4,000 years old, the cuneiform tablet recounts God's alleged instructions to Noah to build the ark out of rope with wooden ribs and coated in bitumen, all about 2/3 the size of a soccer field in area. And the design was that the ark was round. It also detailed that the animals were to enter into the ark 2 by 2. Now, of course, the skeptics are all over this tablet, as if this somehow discredits the biblical account of Noah and the ark. The ship as described in this tablet clearly wasn't seaworthy. Oh, and it's older than the biblical account. So the Bible must have just been a copied version of this story, right? Well, we've heard and dispelled this nonsense before. Just because one newspaper reports a story before another one does not mean one newspaper copied the other. In fact, we find hundreds of accounts of the Great Flood of the Ark, and all too often a man with a name that sounds an awful lot like Noah in cultures all around the world. Almost all of those stories are clearly distorted representations, as is this tablet. The Epic of Gilgamesh described the ark as a cube. Well, such a design would be incredibly unstable, unseaworthy. Well, actually it might float just fine, but the continual flipping over in all directions would kill everybody on board. Other legends and myths describe the floating vessel as a canoe, or even a giant turtle. Now the reasons for this are a fascinating study, but one thing can be said. These are all clearly mythologies. The biblical account, on the other hand, is the only record that stacks up and is reasonable. In fact, multiple times, models have been built according to the specifications of the biblical account and tested in professional wave tanks. The design was astonishingly stable, able to right itself from extreme rolling, but it would naturally point into the waves. The biblical account is written as history, not mythology, and it's obvious in the writing. So contrary to taking away from the authenticity of the biblical account of the flood, this tablet only adds to the already overwhelming evidence of that flood. It's just another account of a past event that affected the whole world, seeing as how the whole world has record, legend, or mythology of that event. Stick around, we'll be back with the mailbag in just a minute.
The Complete Creation video series is just that, an exhaustive look at the science, philosophy, and theology behind the creation-evolution debate. In this 12 DVD series, Ian Juby starts off with a 1-hour presentation for the children in God's little creation. He then follows up with almost 11 hours of lecturing for the adults as he walks you through the debate starting at its surprising history and examining the evidence from biology, geology, physics, paleontology, and archaeology. Chances are any question you have about the creation-evolution debate is answered in this video series. With open captions for the hearing impaired, the series is both entertaining and educational. There are also free resources, such as question and answer and proctor sheets for homeschoolers. You can now get the entire set as an instant digital download or on DVD. Visit Ian's bookstore today.
Woohoo! Mail for me? Luma wrote in on YouTube. Professor Juby, thank you for your cutting-edge research into the only objectively moral mass killing event, not genocide, in human history. Without your scholarship and single peer-reviewed paper, we would be unable to distinguish between your God's morally justified mass killings based on our inherent wickedness and the morally unjustified mass killings of dictators based on our inherent wickedness. As a self-described genius and academic, you might be able to answer my question. How can you call the mass killings done by psychopathic dictators wrong, but the mass killings done by your loving Bible God objectively moral? If we are all evil, then all mass killings destroy wickedness and cleanse the earth of sinners, right? According to your scientific research, anything that gets rid of evil humans is good because it reduces the amount of evil in the world. Dictators are actually carrying out your God's divine plan, like many of them claim. Who are we to call them evil with our subjective understanding of morality? If we have a flawed moral perspective, how can we claim that children who end up in death camps don't deserve being there? Don't be surprised if you get to heaven and it looks like that basement dungeon in Silence of the Lambs. I'll bet God is dancing around in front of a mirror right now. Sarcasm duly noted, but you have not thought this through. Now let's put ourselves in the shoes of a creator for the moment and take a walk with me. Now, as a robotics engineer, I can build robots. I can build a whole world of robots. I can give them emotions, artificial intelligence, free will. I am the creator. Now, if I build such a robot, it doesn't make me evil or good. I'm just a creator. I made a robot. In like fashion, if I dismantle that robot, in a sense kill it, that also does not make me evil nor good. It's my robot. I built it. I own it. I can do whatever I want with it. It's just a robot. However, in stark contrast, if one of my robots goes and kills another one of my robots, hey, that's my robot he killed. I own it. Not him, I do. That is where moral objectivity comes from. I, the creator, say what is right and what is wrong. The rules I give to my robots do not apply to me because of our roles. I'm the creator. I make the rules, not the robot. I mean, what does he know? And what right does he have to say if it's okay to go and take the life of one of my other robots? He has absolutely no place to do so. Now, in like fashion, I say our creator has put into our hearts what is right and wrong. Dom Luma, what is your foundation for what is right and wrong? If I ask you if it is wrong to murder someone and you say yes, then on what grounds do you base your response? Is it because of the laws of the land? Well, the Nazis made it perfectly legal to kill the Jews. So what is your foundation for what is right and wrong? I would contend you have none. So your attempts to criticize the Creator are irrational, even illogical, because you are using His morals that He gave to you to criticize Him when those morals simply do not apply to Him because of His rule. You are the creation, just a created being, nothing more. He can take your life like that and be completely guilt-free. He will have done no wrong whatsoever. Now, coming back to my robots, I make an entire world of them. My robots then rebel against me. I am certainly justified in destroying my robots. I own them. While it does not make me evil nor good to destroy them, I certainly am justified in destroying them because of their rebellion against me. I build them up. I tear them down. However, in our case, the Creator actually cares about His creation. He cares about you. And that's the dilemma. In order for you to have free will, He has to let you have free will, including the choice to hate Him, despise Him, believe and spread all kinds of lies about Him. But as the creator of a world of robots, how long do you think I would put up with it if one of my robots did that to me? Especially if that robot is turning my other robots against me. Am I not just and righteous to do what I want with that robot? And yet if I patiently put up with him, hoping that that robot, which I built with super intelligence and the capability to learn, will not only turn from his ways and learn the truth, is that not loving on my part to patiently endure it? And yet I would be completely just and justified to exact punishment on that robot as well. And so you are in the hands of a creator God who has already shown incredible mercy to you. Every single one of us has rebelled against the Creator, me included. People think that I just came to God and Jesus all lovey-dovey and stuff. Oh, He's just so beautiful. No, I was incredibly angry at Jesus and God, much like you are now. But you see, I got desperate. I was quite suicidal at the time, and I turned to God out of nothing more than desperation. I started reading the Bible and started at the Gospels. I was so angry at the words of Jesus that I literally flung my Bible against the wall, repeatedly. I would go over in a rage, pick it up, and fling it against the wall again. But I was desperate. So after cooling down, I would go back over, pick it up again, and start reading where I left off. And after struggling through it all over many months, and realizing the truths buried in there, and that I had embraced lies for many years of my life, lies against Jesus and God that I believed, I was shocked to find out that He loved and cared for me. So I'm going to pray that you come to that point of desperation, and also pray that you too will find those truths and be just as shocked as I was. Well, I got to call that a wrap. I'm your host, Ian Juby, saying ta-ta for now, and I hope you'll join me again next Genesis week. Remember, you can send in your comments, questions, hate mail, and the maps to your buried pirate treasure to us in a number of ways. Remember those words of warning from our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. We'll see you on the flip side.
We are a viewer-supported program and need your support to keep this program on the air. Please pray for us, and if you wish to financially support the program, Canadians can make a tax-deductible donation to Core Ottawa, Canada North Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, K2K 2P4. While we cannot offer tax-deductible receipts outside of Canada, donors wishing to financially support the program can do so online at ianjuby.org/donations, and thank you for your support.